Hello, true duelists. YGO Strats here, sitting in front of you with a green shirt on. Rare moment I'm taking advantage of, because when you film in front of a green screen, you can't do that. Even this light, kind of minty green, it keys out with the green. You can't do it, unless you want to be floating head syndrome, a la, the Fifth Element's movie poster. Did you waste time on TV tropes too as a kid? No? I don't recommend it unless you have a couple years to kill, like I did when I was 18. Moving swiftly on though, today we're talking about tier systems in Yu-Gi-Oh! Tiers are an interesting thing because they're widely known and discussed, as in people can generally say, yeah, that's a tier 1 deck or a tier 2 deck, but most people don't have any real meaning behind that sentence. They'll just say it's tier 1. It does well, it's tier 1. Rogue is even worse. Rogue, in the grand scheme of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, does not mean some percentage of tops in a format. Rogue means I like it and I've decided it could be good. People will just throw out the word rouge, wholly ignorant to the French language, as they should be, and then say that that deck is rouge. Yeah, man. Bujin's rouge this format. You won a game at locals. That's it. It's meta. It's rouge. Kinda grinds my gears. Let's go with grinds my gears a little bit. Now, this is brought up because I have been doing that YouTube thing where I'm clickbaiting the shit out of the fact that tier limits have been tier 0, or they were, or are about to be again. We'll find out when YCSs come out and, more definitive tops and yada yada yada. The point being, while almost everyone can agree that tier Shizu is tier 0, that's just because everyone's been saying and agreeing is tier 0. There is an actual number behind that reasoning for some amount of people saying it, but others are just going along with it because, well, MBT said it and MBT is God. No disrespect to Mr. Rothschild, but I'm bringing about this video in part to explain the tier system that I'm following. It's not my tier system. This has been used on Pojo for years now. I truthfully don't know the exact origin of it. I don't know if it's based in, like 90% of things in Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic the Gathering originally had it or something. Maybe Pokemon uses something similar. Who knows? I don't. I've tried Googling it. I didn't find a lot, and it's really not pertinent to this video, so who gives a shit? If you know the exact origin of this tier system, be cool, leave a comment. Educate my uninformed ass. Point is, I have the tier system here in Pojo, and that's what I'm going to explain and then kind of run through tiers in Yu-Gi-Oh! And kind of the goofiness of them, I suppose. According to the Pojo forums that have been using this exact system for over a decade now, or at least you can see they go back to 2011, so been a minute. This is not a new system. The tier systems are based on percentages of tops in accordance with the significance of the tops, and by that I mean the premier of the event, the prestige of it. That is to say, a YCS is more significant than a regionals. So if you win at a YCS, it's a more competitive environment. Typically there's more players. It's a more notable win to win at a YCS than it is at a regional. So a YCS win has more points attached to it. Namely, according to this system, there are 3 classes of tournaments: YCSs, WCQs, and UDSs, or the Championship Series, the World Championship Qualifiers, and the Ultimate Duelist Series. These are all the highest tiered events. Worlds also exists, but Worlds is a completely different it's a completely different game to what anyone in the OCG or the TCG plays, so we'll ignore Worlds specifically, but in regards to the World Championship Qualifiers and the YCSs and the Ultimate Duelist Series, those are your main big named events. Those are the ones that matter most, and topping in those earns a deck 3 points. So if you have one player top a YCS with Dragon Maid, hey, Dragon Maid has 3 points towards its, total. And then Class 2 tournaments, you can tell this is an old-ass system because it lists ARG 20Ks, and then regionals with 257 or more players, or national events with 150 or more players. ARG does not believe do anything in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. It's no longer 2015, so yeah, it's a bit of an old system. But the main thing from that is your regionals with 257 or more and nationals with 150 or more. The bigger number of players, the more competitive it is. You have to beat more people, right? Makes sense to me. And then Class 1 tournaments are regionals with 256 or less and nationals with 150 or less. And I guess pro play games, if they do more stuff, again, there's variables. The main thing to take away from this is that essentially YCS tops are the cream of the crop, because those are the things happening the most frequently throughout the year, and they're the ones that are most readily available to look at. If we want to be super-de-duper-de technical, those points are what really matters, because enough 2-point wins in a Class 2 tournament can boost you to a higher point than a deck that's only gotten 3-point wins from a YCS technically. It's a numbers game, right? Regardless, once you take up all the points and average it out, then you get what defines it into the tiers. And now this is where it gets a little interesting, because tier 0 has traditionally always been 65% or more. So if you have 65% of tops at an event, like tier Shizu did, like 2 or 3 events in a row, 26 out of the top 32 spots, that's tier 0. At that point, everyone can pretty definitively agree. But I'll see people say that 50% still puts you at the tier 0 mark. Not according to this system. According to this system, 15 to 65% is tier 1, which is a huge window. And maybe a little concerning, but the point is there are formats where it isn't just one deck a la a tier 0 format. There are plenty of formats where there's multiple decks, and so maybe 2 decks have about 30% each. And then they make up 60% of the tops, but they're still not clearly dominant. It's about a 50-50 whether you're going to face, you know, Sky Striker or Orcust. They're both very good decks in their time. They're both tier 1, but neither is tier 0. Tier 2 refers to anything with 5 to 15%. Tier 3 will refer to 1 to 5% of tops, and less than 1% will be rogue. Which means that if you want to be super technical, a deck is only rogue if it's actually topped at a YCS. Dragon Maid, I believe, is or was rogue, because a deck playing 8 Dragon Maid cards around a Bestial Engine topped. So that's Dragon Maid these days. It's a rogue deck. Congrats to all the Dragon Maid players. These are the numbers that I'm going off of anytime I talk about tiered statuses. But the thing is, not everyone bases their tiering systems off of this. And there are people who throw in a tier 1.5 or a tier 2.5, and it's like, I guess you can. It seems a little redundant to me. It's either you have a percentage rating here. It's like there's nothing that's got like the 15%, which puts you into tier 1, or you're less than 15, in which case you're tier 2. You know what I mean? I don't think there's any, like, you could argue that it's like it's tier 1.5 because it has 14.5% of tops. Sure. But it still would, by the numbers, be tier 2. The system is far from perfect broadly because you can also game this. Like, it's never going to happen, but according to this system, if everyone agreed to bring Dark Magician to the next 9 YCSs, and the next 9 YCSs only had Dark Magician, then by this system, Dark Magician's tier 0. That's not true. At no point has Dark Magician been tier 0 in the deck's history, or will it? I'll be bold enough to say it. I don't think Dark Magician's going to be tier 0 ever at any point. But according to this little system here, you can rig it to be tier 0 because it's just numbers. It's numbers of tops. Really though, if that even like, that's like getting the mass bunk at school, you know, back in the days. Oh, we'll all skip class and they can't suspend us all. And then Timmy still, like 90% of the class shows up anyway. It's like, no, I'm not getting in trouble with my mom, dude. It's not worth it. And it's like, well, you know what, Timmy? Fuck your mom. Fuck your mom, Timmy. It's definitely a flawed enough system. It's also flawed because it's Yu-Gi-Oh! And something Yu-Gi-Oh! Players don't read. There's not going to be a dedicated number of people that commit to this, and there's going to be even more people that don't even watch this fucking video, and as such continue to say something like, you know, Bujin's tier 2 this format because there's one dude at locals just tearing it up every week, and I don't know how to side deck, so clearly Bujin's tier 2. And that has nothing to do with the fact that it has, you know, 5 to 15% of tops in a YCS or whatever, or at a regional level or anything like that. It's just, well, Bujin's doing good, so it's tier 2. Most people, when they talk about decks, if it tops at a tournament, it's tier 1. If it could top at a tournament, if more people played it, it's tier 2. Tier 3 does not exist, and Rogue is whatever they're playing. That's the like layman's version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Tier systems. And, you know, tier 0 is any deck that I don't like. Tier 0 is any deck that's like a little too prominent. Sky Striker was tier 0 to someone. They weren't right, but it was tier 0 to someone. That's about all I got to say here. It's just a quick rundown of tiers in Yug-Yug. Again, I'm using the Pojo system here. If you want, you can find one of countless threads going over this and the numbers specifically. I've looked it up. Almost all of it is just people being like, what are tiers in Yu-Gi-Oh? And vaguely referring to this, or just spewing whatever they feel is right. So, I don't know what tiers are in Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, I know they're meant to describe the viability of decks in competitive environments, but like, this is what when you watch the update, if you're ever curious, this is what I'm referring to. This is what a number of people will refer to when they pull the 65% or more for tier 0 out of their ass that is coming from somewhere. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you've watched the video, and if you didn't watch the video, you didn't see this, so hit the subscribe button anyway. Who gives a shit? Adios, Jets. Next time.